Welcome to Satsang. I'd like to ask you a question just because it's going to be the theme, okay, what we're going to discover today. And the question is this: what do you feel is the greatest barrier to spiritual awareness? Yeah.
To think that it's something you need to get.
Oh, that's not a bad point. This is something even more subtle.
Perhaps wanting, wanting the truth to be what you want it to be.
That's a very good one too. You see why I want to get your feeling?
Yeah.
But it's not quite it.
To
What do you feel blocks you from? Yeah.
Is it to think that I'm special?
That could be too. It is the inability to listen. Because when we listen with the heart, not with the mind, we begin to perceive. You see, we try to figure things out. And there was a professor at UBC, and I met him, and he gave a talk to a large audience. And he said that the lecture I'm going to giving, at the end, you'll probably retain 35%. The next day it will be just about 10%. And then he was asked, why is this so? That's what we're going to discuss today too. You see, he put it this way. He says, because you listen with the mind, and the mind either agrees or disagrees. Now, if it agrees, it hasn't learned anything because it's going on with its own established beliefs. Got it? It's what I believe anyway. So it's nothing new. If it's something he doesn't believe and he says, no, I reject it, I disagree, then it doesn't go with your viewpoint and you're blocked to it anyway. You're not hearing it. See, but the heart is open to possibilities and doesn't block anything. Because it is like the child like the innocence of a child. It is totally open to experience. And it's not filled with right and wrong, should and shouldn't, must. You see? There's none of that. There is only the willingness to experience. And that is the whole key. See? Hi. So, there's a chair for you. Hi. So this, we can explain it this way, okay? Why we listen with the mind instead of the heart. You are a human being. The human is individualized mind. The being is what we refer to as the heart, the very core and essence of you. But we do everything by listening to the mind, you see, with the mind. And so we lack depth. So we listen to words, what we think the words mean according to how we established meaning to them, and then we try to live from thinking that this is the truth. But the truth has nothing to do with any definition you give it. Okay? So today we'll focus a little bit more on heart listening. Heart listening means that everything has a message. Whether you're feeling bad or good, it has a message. Whether you're feeling pleasure or pain, it has a message. But the message is not always what we think it is. The mind conjures up, oh, they're angry at me, there's something wrong with me, or they shouldn't. Immediately we jump. But if we were to listen, we would hear an entirely different message. And that's where the awakening of consciousness, of awareness happens. So what we're concerned with here is feeling rather than thinking. What is the difference between thinking and feeling? See, thinking is always about it. Think about love. Write books about love. Write songs about love. Everything is about love. but you don't know love until you feel love. And then you only feel love to the extent that you feel it. Got it? And the more you feel the love, of course, the more you are one with it. So it's feeling, not thinking. I had a guy just send me an email a couple of days ago, and he says, I was in the West End and I watched the sunset. And he said it was beautiful. For the first time I actually watched it. I sat on a bench and I just sat. And he said, I felt good. He said, what is that goodness that I felt? And I said, because you listened to it. And so when we think listening, we think there are some words. Well, you could put words to it if you like, as long as you know that the feeling has no words. But the sunset was, in its beautiful glow, was saying good night to this part of the world. But it also gave us the promise that it's going to rise again. And you might say, but how do I know that it's telling me that? Because when you really listen, when you sit very still and watch that glow, you can feel it. It's like a promise. You see, that there's going to be a tomorrow. Are we understanding what listening is? See, it's a tuning in rather than listening to words. So what is really listening? You see, there's nothing that you can experience in life that you cannot listen to. I studied psychology, but I put it aside after I had my so-called awakening experience. Because everything is talking to you. Everything. But the moment we define it as good or bad, right or wrong, should or shouldn't, the moment we put rules into it, our tradition makes us do so, our religions make us do so, our upbringing makes us do so, but the moment you put any rule the way you think it is, you stopped listening to it. You see, and the moment you stop listening, you stop growing. I get more people saying, why am I stuck? I've been doing this for years. I'm so stuck. This is what stuckness is. We stop listening. You see, because even if you're really listening and you say, I am stuck, what is that telling me? We listen to that. You see? So now we're going to learn a secret. The secret of listening, okay? And it's a word. And I would like you to really pay attention to this because it's very, very exciting. Okay? So as soon as you know this word, we'll apply it, okay? We'll apply it together here. Okay, so let's say how do we listen? You see, you are a human being. So the being, there are 7 billion humans on this earth, and there's only one being. But let me tell you this before we go into the deeper aspect of the secret of listening. I did a little bit of research lately, and I found out some things very, very interesting. One interesting thing is that in the United States, there's 100 million antidepressants being prescribed by doctors every year. 100 million antidepressants. Now we know what that does, eh? It raises the serotonin level and it depresses the dopamine level, which means that even your sexual energy begins to die. You see? So the damage that these drugs do, and yet it's worldwide. There's 700,000 suicides a year in the States. In Canada it's 4,000, which comes to about 10 a day. Now, excuse me. Now, why am I telling you this? Because you see, we don't listen with the heart, we listen with the mind. And when you listen to the mind all the time, you listen to what you've told yourself when you were young. If you weren't loved as a child, then I am unlovable. Then there's something wrong with me. See, and we put these thoughts into being and we make them so real that we stop listening to the heart. And the moment you stop listening to the heart, something in you dies. You begin to die. You see, depression is a result of that type of death. And if you understand what depression is, it's something interesting. I've said it many times, but I'd like to repeat it again. I had a woman, a few months ago, and she's a businesswoman, a career woman, a very successful woman, and suddenly there was a tragic death in her family, and she, to top it all, she lost her lover, her business went bad, and she tried to commit suicide. Anyway, to make a long story short, she Skyped me at one point, and even while she's talking to me, she's saying, I don't know what the hell you're going to be doing, but I want to try it, try anything. And to make a long story short, I came to the point and I said to her, okay, what is depression? And then she started telling me the psychology books that read about depression. And I said, fine, that's interesting. I said, but what are you feeling? She said, I'm feeling helpless. Now get that word, helpless. I said, now listen to that word, helpless. There is nothing you can do because the ego part of you, the mental conditioned part of you, is totally helpless to do anything about it. There's nothing you can do. Oh, you can take drugs, you can go to doctors, you can be treated, but there's nothing really you can do. And anyway, so we finished the session. She was a very intelligent, bright woman, and I said to her, I said, now for homework, I want you to feel out this word. Really listen to this word. What does it mean to be helpless? So many times she felt like, what can I do? But then the word came, but I'm helpless to do anything. After 3 days later, she sent me an email and she said, my depression has gone completely. Completely healed. Now, I heard from her yesterday, now she's giving talks to depressed people about how to overcome depression by fully listening to everything that happens to us. You see, because when you listen fully to something, without calling it bad or good, it teaches you something precious. Always. Now, here is the secret. Are you ready to hear it? The secret of listening? Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, the word is called connection. That's it. So you're either connecting or you're not connecting. And that's it. You see? And that is it. So whenever you are feeling bad, whenever you're feeling anxious, whenever you're feeling whatever, ask your heart very simply, and your heart will talk to you. Now, right now you're anxious, you're afraid, okay? Ask your heart right now, how do I prefer to feel instead of this? What will your heart say? How do I prefer to feel instead of this anxiety? What will your heart say?
To be connected.
I'm at peace.
That's right. I prefer to feel good. I prefer to feel better. I prefer to feel whole. Okay? Why? Because that is your nature. See, that is who you are. It's as simple as that. So the heart will never let you down because the heart is the key point of your heavenly state, you know? Like it's our true home. You're always at home when there is an absence of self. You know what I mean, absence of self? Just like I mentioned one time, and I'd like to mention it again, because when we listen, we can hear it 10 times. Sometimes it takes 20 times to actually hear it. So there's a boy playing ball, and he's having fun. Okay, he's having so much fun, in fact, that he's won with the ball. Now his mother stops and asks him and says, are you having fun, dear? He stops to answer his mother. Where's the fun now? It's gone, right? So who was having fun? You see, if we understand this, we understand what it means to listen. Who was having fun then?
The being?
The being, the fun itself, the heart itself. You see? So when we are at our best, we are at home. But we're not conscious, we're not self-conscious about us at the moment. You see, we are it, the very energy itself. That is the secret, connection. You see? So whatever you're feeling, whatever is going on, ask yourself this. Okay, if you're connected, you won't ask it because you're feeling good and the question does not arise. Did you know that when you're happy, you don't have questions? You know, you're happy, you're connected. When you're connected, there's absence of self.
You're
You see?
complete.
Was that?
You're complete.
If you're complete. Right, exactly. But the moment you don't feel complete, you are not connected. Now what does it mean to be connected? What do you feel then?
To be at one.
That's right, to be at one. To be at one with everything. You see? And whatever you are at one with, you are that. You see? That's how versatile, that's how grand we really are. There's no limitation to us at all. No limitation whatever. We are whatever we, at the moment, can see, experience, and allow. But the sense of self, which is limited, the sense of the ego self, is always coming, but what if? You see? There's always coming in. And that's what disconnects you. So now, it would be lovely if you would participate in this, okay? Let's say a person is feeling, give me one of your experiences, something really bad. How would we look at our disconnection to connect again?
Angry?
Okay, let's say you're angry. Okay? So you're feeling angry at the moment. Who is angry?
Myself?
You are.
Yeah.
Right. You are. And who are you?
Nobody.
No, just see what you feel. There's no right or wrong. Okay? Yeah. If you're angry, me is angry. Who is this me that's angry?
Oh, I see. The ego, right?
Let's not mention the ego for now, because I already mentioned it. No, that's okay. There's nothing wrong. It's just that if you use a word too often, you begin to think you know it. And if you begin to think you know it, then somehow you're not listening anymore. You see, there's always more and more and more. What we call ego is a conditioned self, okay? You're brought up with certain beliefs, certain traditions, certain past, nationality and that, etc., etc. And it's all beautiful and it's all one. But what happens is that you feel that this is the truth to you. You see, and you don't see that others, being different than you, are also, different than you. But that doesn't make them wrong. You see? So we have to allow all the time that whatever we believe is just a belief. But there's more. So what we call the me is that part in us that is actually believing this, and it made it so real. And because you've made it so real, you act from it automatically. That's called the conditioned mind. You see? When we look at it, at who is being angry, we will find the part in us that disconnected from the whole. Okay, that's how we begin to get in touch. Now you might say, but I feel I'm disconnected. How do I connect again? No, that's not your business. That's God's business. Don't worry about connecting because you're always connected. You're always wired that way. There's nothing for you to do. Just see that you're disconnected and it's okay. The moment you say it's okay and mean it, you're connected. See how simple it is? It's really that simple. But if we fight about it, no, it's got to be something else. I've got to overcome it. I've got to get rid of it. This is wrong. You see? Then we keep on going and going over and over again, struggling. And our home, which is our being, which is our heart, is complete. And listen to that word, complete. Listen to it. Complete. There's nothing you need to do. Nothing. Just get out of the way. You see, it's complete. So you don't need to fix it. You don't need to do anything. Okay? So let's ask some questions now and see how we will tackle it. We'll look at this. How we get back to connection. And remember, you don't get back to connection. You are always connected. What you need to do is see the disconnection. That's it. And then say, it's okay.
You would more so feel the disconnection.
Oh, you always feel it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
It feels like a
see it
discomfort.
as in feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Any feeling of discomfort, self-consciousness, fear, going to do something wrong, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Any form of disconnection is a disconnection. Disconnection from the whole. Yeah.
How about guilt?
Hmm?
How about guilt, Burt?
Guilt is the primary thing. Thank you. Thank
Guilt
you.
for, say, particular actions that
Yeah,
you cannot accept.
Okay. First of all, let's talk about guilt. Guilt is the primordial. It's the thing that we're almost born with, but we're not. The fact that, see, the moment we got born in time and space, duality. Okay, we emphasized the human and forgot the being. Okay, we cannot help it. It's part of survival instinct. We're not doing anything wrong. Okay, the point is to listen to what is happening. We're not doing anything wrong, but what happens with this process, we forget the being, that we begin to think we lack something. You see? Oh, I'm not good enough. I don't feel complete. You know, and because I think I am just Burt. You see, and all I am is my training and everything else. And so I begin to think, oh, you know, I'm not as good as. I compare, I do this, I do that. But when that feeling stays with me, that's called guilt. The feeling that something is wrong. Or the feeling that I've done something wrong. You see? Now, if you think that it's something you've done wrong, and you believe it is, then it's no longer guilt per se, it's a shame. Okay? Shame and guilt are very, very similar. Guilt is more tenacious than shame, because shame is based on a specific incident or experience. Guilt is subtle. It's nagging at you. It's like a pebble in your shoe, and you can't get rid of it, you know, and you don't know where it is. So that's what guilt is. Guilt is very sticky there. But guilt brings all the other feelings, brings the shame, brings all the other feelings into it. You see? Until we come to the point where we hate ourselves. Now, when we think about these people, at one point in the United States it reached 1 million suicides in that 1 year, but I don't remember what year that was. Imagine, you know, the stress that most people live in. And what is stress? What is this stress?
Worry?
Worry?
It's usually based on time.
It is based on time. It is self-concern. It is total self-concern. What is going to happen to me, you know? And so we're so wrapped up into it, it becomes so dark, so menacing, that sometimes the only respite would be to commit suicide. And so this is, you know, happening worldwide. And in Canada, did I mention? In Canada, there's only 4,000, so which comes to about 10 a day. But that's minimal in comparison to other countries. You see? So this is where we have to really start listening. You know, what is wrong with this picture? Is this the way it's meant to be? Because when you have moments of silence, oh, you feel the glory of God, you know, you feel that beauty, you feel that peace. But there are people who've never experienced it. There are people who never experienced their inner home. And that's the saddest thing. So the only thing that they have are their thoughts. And the difference between thought and feeling is that thought is always about it. Feeling is now, you see? And so when you listen to that feeling, it brings you to now. Okay? And then you ask that question. And somehow or other, now let's talk about guilt some more. Okay. See, what happens with guilt is that guilt is self-perpetuating. So this means that when you feel guilty and you try to get rid of that guilt gets back at you and comes more vicious than before. And if you do anything about it some more, it can drive you insane, because what it does is keeps coming back at you, saying, I'm not good enough, there is something wrong with me, etc., etc. So all the time you're trying to overcome something, but the guilt is control itself. Do you understand control? Okay, control has three avenues, three points. Okay, and everybody is born with the need to control. If, see, let's say as a child, the first 6 years of your life, you are controlled by your parents. Do this or you're bad, blah, 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 you see? Make sure you go to do this or do that, whatever. And if you as a child refuse, you begin to feel guilty. The parents sometimes make you feel guilty by saying, how could you do this to us? Which makes it even worse. So you begin to hate yourself. So we are brought up with this type of guilt. Now, what happens is that when we pass the age of 6 or so, when it has implanted, and we're almost set for this particular lifetime in that particular belief system, there is a part of us that says, no, I want to be in control. I don't want to be a slave to this. I have to be in control. But in order for you to be in control, it creates two fears. Fears of being controlled and fear of losing control. You see? So every time you say to yourself, no, I mustn't give my power away, I want to be in control. Fine. But by doing that, again, I'm repeating myself here, is that you create those two fears, and they are vicious. The fear of losing control creates panic attacks, creates nightmares, creates, oh, you name it. I was a hypnotherapist for 30 years, and I've learned a lot about control and what it does to the psyche. And then there is the fear of losing control. Oh, the fear of losing control is what we think, oh, I'm going to go insane. I'm going to lose my mind. This is going to happen to me. Oh my God. You see? And then a part of us tries to control so that we don't do that, which makes it even more control. Okay? And that's how a form of insanity takes root. And this is why it is so beautiful to start listening to the heart. Because the heart is saying, be. Just be. Everything is okay. You are love. You are guiltless. You see? And when you start listening to that, you connect again. And to connect is so simple. It is saying, how do I prefer to feel instead of this anxiety? I prefer to feel whole. Why do I choose to remain anxious then? You see? That's the part of us. You know, we keep choosing to remain in anxiety. But we have the power, once we tell ourselves that I want to feel, you know, I want to listen. Okay? When you start listening, you begin to see what you're doing. You begin to actually feel what your mind is doing. It's drawing you back into that pain, and you almost want to stay in that pain. Why do we want to stay in that pain when we know the heart is telling us, I prefer to feel whole? Why do we remain in that pain? Why do we want to remain in that pain?
Because it's familiar.
It's familiar and we want to punish ourselves. Okay? Because we don't think we're good enough. You see? So therefore guilt creates the need to punish yourself. You see? Yeah, so this is the vicious circle. To break free from the vicious circle requires the total clarity. And the total clarity comes back again. You come back to the heart. The only thing that is real, the only thing that is real, when you realize it, you just wake up. You know, waking up is not going to happen tomorrow. It could happen now as you listen. If you listen completely, this is waking up. You see? And waking up is simply to see that you are the very heart itself. You are the being itself. And you claim it at that moment. Oh, the mind will draw you back. Oh, but I'm not good enough, but there's something wrong. Oh, so stop. I'm connected. You see? And if your drive is strong enough, if your love of truth is strong enough, you begin to see slowly that the heart is the only truth that you have. You think all these maladies that we have, emotional problems, are real? How could they be real? Really? How could these things be real? No, I'm honestly saying this, really. If the wars that we see, if the inhumanity to man is seen, if the enmity and all that's going on in the world is real, then this is hell, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. And
But
it
if
is for some people.
right, yeah. So therefore, what does that mean? If this world is hell, it means it's an illusion, isn't it? It's a dream. It's a nightmare. It's not the truth. Because when you go into silence, when you become very still, you can feel this presence.
Yeah.
You can feel this beauty.
The amazing thing is that when we're in that silence, or that silence is here, or whatever we want to say, then the story, which is what we're talking about,
Right.
just isn't even there. Or if it's there, it's so ephemeral and has no
That's-
reality whatsoever.
That's right.
And yet it seems, and then when it seems there's some sort of involvement with it, then it seems like it's real. And
The
it's
moment you're involved
with
in it, and
yeah.
the mind, the conditioned mind I'm talking
Yeah.
about, okay?
Yeah.
Which we refer to as the ego,
Yeah.
draws you back into it to making it
Yeah.
real. To making it
And
real.
sometimes it can be such a struggle, because it can just be in a moment. In a moment, here I am empty,
Yeah,
vast,
right.
in this moment.
Yeah.
And then
Right
something
now,
can come up,
yeah.
and it could just try to pull me out of the emptiness, in a sense. That's how it feels, and saying, here I am, here I am, here I am, you know, and it's like a struggle at that time, I find. It
Yes.
seems.
Yes.
It can be.
To be aware of that struggle and see the futility of it is the beginning of wisdom, is the true listening. To start seeing that that pull to insanity is not what you are about. And the moment you start seeing it, you start breaking free.
Thank you, Burt.
Yes, yeah. And the point is to listen to it. Just quite some time ago, I had a man, and everything was going wrong in his marriage, alienated from his children. His wife was wanting a divorce. He was an alcoholic. His life was a total mess. He knew nothing about spirituality. And anyway, to make a long story short, I said to him, I gave him as a homework to get up very early in the morning, right here in Kids. I said, go to the beach, sit on a bench, look at the horizon, and keep watching the sun rise for half an hour. And he said, that's it? And I said, do it. Okay? So went, and he sat, and After half an hour, he did become quiet, looking at the sunrise, you know. When he walked away, a thought came to his mind and he told me about it. He said, what the fuck, you know, nothing's happened here. You know, and this is exactly what he said to me. But something else. By saying it and expressing it, something wonderful happened. He remembered what I said to him. No, I said, no matter what your mind tells you, stay with that silence that you felt at sunrise. And he remembered. And by the time he reached his home, he felt a change had taken place. And he was still getting divorced, he was still losing his money, he was still an alcoholic, but it didn't matter. There came a point where, at that moment, he was okay. Okay, now he's okay. Back with his wife, he's got a job,